Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show. I'm your host, Greg Bennett, and this was a really fun episode for me with one of my all-time closest friends, training partners, and just all-around good man, Mathias Hecht. In this episode, we talk about his work as a sports director at Campus Sursee, which everybody should go check out, but also his time as an athlete and some of the big moments in his career and at the Kona Ironman World Championships and winning the St. George Ironman and just having such a successful, consistent career as a professional triathlete and an Ironman athlete. And Mathias talks about a lot of how his learnings from sport really did wonders for his career in business. And was just absolutely a fantastic episode. So many quotable quotes in this one. I think you'll be truly inspired by the way that Mathias has taken control of his life and the direction he's going. Listen to the end here for what he's doing next. Absolutely some fantastic work, particularly in an area called InHub, which is a peak performance center for On, which is one of the big Swiss brands that he's going to be doing some work with as well. But just all round fantastic episode. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. And remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. All right. Well, today's guest is someone who's not only been an exceptional triathlete in the world, but a very good friend of mine for many years. And I also got the privilege of coaching him for a little while. He's hailing from Switzerland, and his journey in the world of triathlon was really quite astonishing. One of those stories of just sheer grit and perseverance, and somebody that I just truly admire and respect for the way he just kept going. And I took a lot of inspiration from the way he trained. He retired from the sport and has moved on to become the sports director at Campus Sursee, a big sporting complex in Switzerland. And I want to sort of spend some time in this episode talking about, yes, his career, but also the transition from being a professional triathlete and to get such a significant job out of the sport. We lived and trained together in Noosa, Australia and Boulder, Colorado for many years. We watched each other suffer. And we often punished each other as well, away from the racetrack. And just been a really good friend of mine for many, many years. So I'm just really excited to have him join me on the show. So without further ado, welcome to the Greg Bennett Show, Mathias Hecht. How are you, mate?
Hi, Greg. Thank you. I'm very good. Great to talk to you. And yeah, I feel privileged to be part of your podcast, listening to it since a while. So love it, and yeah, absolutely stoked to be part of it.
Oh, mate, it was so funny because I started this year going, God, I got a few mates that I haven't caught up with for a while, and so I called you last week, and it was like, hang on, let's continue this chat. Let's have you on the show, and we can record an episode together. And I really just need to apologize actually for the fact that I haven't had you on sooner, because I do think your story, like I said in the intro, of just the perseverance and finding your way in the sport. There's a lot in that. It's kind of the Belinda Granger type story, somebody that just found her niche and really went for it. And you were much the same in finding Ironman and really had such an outstanding career once you sort of found out what you wanted to be doing. But before we dive in, what are you up to? What have you been up to today?
Well, just a normal day at work, Nowadays, this looks a bit different than as a professional athlete, and I've got, my sports complex, there's always got a lot going on, We've got a lot of swim teams, and we've got a swim academy with a lot of young kids learning to swim, which is amazing. And so, yeah, I'm busy every day. The complex is running 7 days a week, all year round. So, yeah, that's how my day looks nowadays. But I also keep fit, and now went up at 5 in the morning, and I train in the morning normally, and then at midday a little bit if I get time between meetings. so I still keep fit. Yeah.
You've always loved it. You've always loved the training. Even when you'd come to Boulder and Laura and I are slacking off or whatever, you and your wife, Nico, you'd be both out there training, doing long rides, studying. You always made me feel like I should be doing something. One of those people like,
Yeah, still love it, mate. Still love it.
Tell us more about Campus Sursee for people that haven't heard about it. It's in the middle of Switzerland. It's one of Switzerland's biggest sporting complexes, right?
Yeah, we opened up the sports complex more or less exactly 5 years ago, but the sports complex is just one part of the whole campus. You can imagine it a little bit like very similar to a university campus in the US, the ones we know. And so it's 150,000 square meters, big. So not small at all, and it's like a little town almost by itself, And just to understand Campus Sursee a little bit more, it's firstly, Campus Sursee is the largest education center in the construction industry in Switzerland. That's our main business. That's the origin of the campus. And then with the years, the campus is 50 years old, so quite a few years.
Wow.
So not many people, of course, not even people in Switzerland, sometimes know that. And then, like 20 years ago, they opened it more for public. They turned it into, part of it, a new business segment was the hotel, with the entire seminar sector. Nowadays we've got 550 hotel rooms, we've got 5 restaurants, we've got over 60 seminar rooms, like meeting rooms, smaller ones. But then also we've got 2 event halls, one for 500 people and one for 1,000 people. Wow. And so this was all here, and then the last part of it, that was the sports sector, which we built up, which was my job from the beginning to build it up, in the first 3 years before we actually opened up the complex. It's a 70 million, I think approximately $70 million US sports complex. That was the investment, in it. And it's the smallest unit of the 3 we have here, but, it consists aquatic center, the biggest, one of the biggest one, Lausanne, the Olympic town or city, we call it, in Switzerland, has a new one as well. But we've got a 50-meter Olympic pool, a semi-Olympic pool, 2 smaller pools, a big sports hall for all the indoor sports, then a gym, Pilates studio, spa, a recovery lab, physiotherapy, sports massage, mental coaching, nutritionists we have, so it's a big complex with a lot of sports competence in it,
Can anybody, like if you're listening in Australia or the US or Britain or whatever, could I book a trip there and say, hey, I want to do a training camp there, or is it just for big teams?
No, it's for everybody, really. We've got a lot of private triathlon coaches, and there seems to be more and more of them. Yeah. And they come here and have their private camps. We've got our own camps as well. I've got a former Olympic swimmer, Carla, in my team. She runs swim camps. And now I started working with Lubos Bilek. He's a former coach of Sebastian Kienle, when he was the world champion. So it's kind of a big name in long distance in Europe for sure. And so we've got camps with him. But then, our main customers are mostly swimming. We've got big swim meets as well, because we've got, spectator chairs for 1,500 people. And so it's not a big stadium, but it's big enough to have, national swim meets, Swiss national champs we had several times before. And maybe a lot of triathletes remember, and I'm really, really proud of to get the Super League Arena games here last year, which was quite amazing and probably the highlight.
Was that you just calling up Chris McCormack and saying, hey, by the way, I want one of your races here? Or was it
more or less, I knew the people a little bit. And so I knew, there's one, I think it was it Munich, I think, was pulling out because they had to close their pool or something like that.
Okay.
I thought this is going to be my chance, because there's all these Olympic stadiums and they host arena. I'm like, this is going to sound pretty cool. We've got London, Singapore, Montreal, and Sursee. Nobody knows where Sursee even is, and so it was a great story and just amazing, the whole setup of the pool. And, talking to the athletes, it was actually really cool to hear that they enjoyed that one the most, because with the arena here, people are really close. Like the spectators are really close to the athletes, right? Like the spectator chairs go right to the pool floor, which is very different to an Olympic stadium where normally they sit high up. Like 2 meters above or something, and they can't really hear the spectators, or there must be a lot of spectators to make noise. And here it was all in such a small place, and we had this movable floor we moved up, so we had a different setup, because we used more space for everything. So we built everything up on the water actually, and so the treadmills and the trainers, they were actually on the water, which was pretty cool. But wow. This was a highlight for sure. Yeah.
And did you put all the athletes up in the hotel at Campus?
Yeah. They were all here, and it was just great to see sport at this level.
Macca, if you're listening, mate, or whoever at Super League, it sounds like this should be an annual event. As long as there's some profit in it for Campus Sursee, I guess. But mate, I remember watching that and thinking of you going, "Oh, that's really cool." It's just nice to see old networks coming back together, if you know what I mean. People.
100%. It's a lot about networking in general. In the sports industry. I get, we've got the National Training Center here for the Triathlon Federation. Since a bit more than 2 years now. So there a few of the athletes are based here. They've got a coach here on a daily basis. And this, of course, was almost my goal. I said, this is my path. I want to have the national training facility here in Sursee at this facility, and because I know it's the perfect area to train and it's a great pool. So we made that happen, and that was pretty cool. And like that, I'm still around all the young trial. It makes me feel older, that's for sure, seeing all these junior athletes and on a daily basis. But it's funny because it always makes you remember the times when we were like 18 years old and went to the junior worlds and all that. And now I see all these kids, and it's pretty cool.
So cool. Well, mate, congrats on all that. I want to come back to Campus Sursee and your involvement here. But congrats on getting, Super League and then obviously the National Training Center there. Very cool. But what I want to do is just what I love to do in this show, and I know you've listened to a few of the episodes, but I want to rewind the clock and get to know you and how you tell me about how you found the world of sport and specifically triathlon. When did that sort of passion all start?
I think very early, I was always very, I don't know how you say, versatile, and I did all different kind of sports from soccer, like everybody who grows up in Switzerland, as a boy plays soccer or football, we call it here first. Then I played volleyball, tennis, even tournaments, and I did a few snowboard races. But mostly I was in athletics, I did the 3,000 meter was my thing, hard to believe.
What time did you do the 3K in? Can you remember?
I don't even remember, close to 9 minutes, I think, at that age. But
9 minutes was always the number to crack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, was it, and it's funny because it actually turned into a weakness of mine later, but it was actually where I came from. And I from what I remember, I didn't do too bad. But so anyway, that's how I started. And
And so you found the world of triathlon that way through track, swimming.
Yeah, track and field. Yeah, because we were on a training camp once, and I was only 12 years old then. And then, one of the guy who was running the camp, he did just a fun triathlon. I mean, this was 1992, so I don't know. There was probably still Mark Allen and Hal Riegel time, and so we did a little triathlon in that camp, and I actually did really good for a 12-year-old, and I loved it. And if you think you're good in something, or you compare yourself with others and you see you actually doing well, you get more interested, and everything just started from there. And with 17, I made the national team and in the junior national team and raced the world champs 1998 in Lausanne at home, which was a quite really cool race, so that was kind of my first big international race.
I love that. So when did you actually then realize, you obviously pretty talented in early teens, to be 12 and finding the sport? Gosh, that's young, actually. I think you're probably the youngest person outside of Alistair Brownlee that I've heard start the world of triathlon.
Well, maybe Nicola as well, I think. Nicola and maybe Rudy Wild as well. The other Swiss.
Okay. There's a couple of others that went through with you in that really early stage. Because I kind of think I found the sport around 14, 15. That was in the mid to late 80s. Yes, I'm aging myself. And then did you realize, did you actually think, oh, maybe I've got some talent in this? Was there, what moment did you go, oh, actually, I go okay? Was there one time or was it over time that happened?
Yeah, I think, we had this really good Swiss series at that time. It was called, you might remember, the Credit Suisse series.
Yeah. And that's where I raced Olivia Bernhard in that series.
It used to be such a good series with all Australians racing, Paul Mackay and all these Australian guys, and Simon Thompson, I think, raced a few times.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't race them at that time because I was still a junior, but, I did well in that series for 2 or 3 years. And that was probably the main reason I made the national team and got the chance to race in the world champs. But, even in the juniors, I was never, I wouldn't say the most talented or the best junior, and it's funny when you look back sometimes out of the junior team from that time, I was probably the only one who ever turned professional, and were much better and faster athletes at that time than I was. But probably the grit or just, keep going and fighting through it and just loving the sport and training helped me a lot. I think, that was probably my biggest strength after all, to just love what I do, Isn't
it? I love having this conversation about sort of that talent ID in those sort of in that youth category, and I see it now with kids of our own, and parents are all pushing their kids push into sports and academics, and Laura and I are sitting back going, "What's the race? What are we doing here?" We're kind of looking at. It's like the drop off is just so massive. I think I read somewhere where it's like 70% of all kids are done with sport by 13, 14.
Yeah.
What? And then you get to what you're saying, you make World Juniors and 18, 19 and all the very best. They've all been pushing so hard for so long that they lose the passion, they lose the thrill. And almost if you've never been the best, you kind of want to keep searching for it because you haven't had it, right? It's like, well, hang on, I've never got to win a race. I'm going to keep going until I do.
100%, 100% agree. I think this helped me a lot, because I think I can do better, and I can train harder, which was not always good at the end because you can go the wrong way, and probably did at the end of my career. But still, it helped me at that time, and made me go all in as well, and tried. I gave it all and risked quite a bit as well, stopped my studies for a few years, and which is very unusual for Swiss, they all look at you in a funny way and go, you can't do that, because this is the Swiss way is to get your education first and then go to uni and then I kind of threw it all away, and I'm like, okay, if I ever want to have a chance against like people I think or athletes that are much better than me, I have to go all in, and there's nothing in between. And going to Australia in 2000 after I finished what would that be in the US, high school, I guess, around 19. So I finished. Is it high school? I think it's high school, is it?
Yeah, we finished high school around 17.
So, I went to Australia then for a year, and I came down there. I think it was the first time when I went to Canberra and Sydney and trained with some really good athletes there, and Simon Thompson as well, And
Luke McKenzie, is that when you met Luke McKenzie?
Yeah, Luke and Macca, and I trained with them all, And the thing is, I saw the Australian mentality in sport, and Australians, they just always went 100% in. They didn't, there was never a plan B for them. And I was always impressed by that. I go like, okay, this is the way to do it, I mean, most Australian, even the ones who came to Switzerland the years after, younger athletes, sometimes stayed with me, in Switzerland. And it was always interesting or great to see they invest everything just to get over to Europe to race. And not even think about how to get a flight ticket back, and just go from race to race. And I've seen a few of them, and not, only a few made it at the end, So, but still, that mentality. I mean, and I went back to Australia for the next 14 years for every winter, and I just love to train there because of the mentality, and that definitely helped me a lot.
I love that all-in mentality. I had Simon Lessing on the show. I don't know if you listened to that one a few months back, and he had that mentality.
Actually I did,
yeah, getting out of apartheid South Africa and just basically a one-way ticket to Europe and sleeping in his bike bag and everything. I was like, oh wow, right? I mean, it's like that kind of.
I don't think you see that anymore, do you? I'm not sure, but
no. Look, I can't speak. I'm sure there's some young athlete listening to this right now, going, "Well, that's me. I'm sleeping, at the railway station and racing the next morning." And it's look, you do. You. How did you survive in those early? Like, how did you first sort of get your airfare to Australia? Were you working kind of part time or coaching or doing something? What were you doing? To, because you weren't making much money, I don't think, in 2000.
Not
to judge, but I don't, you weren't.
No, definitely not.
How were you?
I was really lucky to get an early contract with, it was called the EWZ team at that time, which was the best paid team in Switzerland. I didn't get a lot of money there, but just enough, to make it through, to stay in Australia. And, then I had a little business on the side for a while. We were importing, a friend of mine and I were importing some sports goods. But, never, it was always a fight, really, always, always just making it through just by that. Until I turned, I did my first Ironman and actually went into a long distance career, because the short course career was just a fight all the time and definitely no money for me there,
But you were close. I mean, the Swiss coming through, you're on track. Was Olympics, 2000, 2004, 2008, were they ever on your mind?
Yeah, 2004, I was actually, in a training camp on the island of Cyprus, with the team. And at that time, we had guys like Rita Hoog and Ollie Marceau, who raced for Switzerland, and then Sven, who became, good enough. I don't have to tell you. He was there. He got your third spot.
Whatever.
So those three made the team, and there were 3 spots. And I think there was Rudy Wild and myself, kind of behind them. But that's a
strong team, though. That's a strong team.
And quite a gap.
They were very good. I mean, Rito was podium at World Champs. Olivia was winning World Champs. And then Sven, Rita, that was his biggest performance, 2004, to take the podium. That was a huge performance for him. But, when did you decide then? You gave the Olympics a good shot. Was there somebody tap you on the shoulder and said, hey, you're good at short, but you might be better at doing the longer races? And how old were you?
So the year after, it was 2005. I had an Australian coach at that time. Scott Penny was his name. Yeah. And he was kind of a Brett Sutton style kind of coach. Great guy. He sadly passed away a few years ago. And so he really got me into Ironman racing and it was kind of funny because he told me 8 weeks before Ironman was Western Australia. I was training in Cairns at that time with his squad, and And we actually planned to do, it was a World Cup in New Zealand at that time. I don't remember where it was exactly, but it was at the end of the year. So I flew down to Australia to prepare for that one.
New Plymouth,
And
probably.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah.
And then 8 weeks before Ironman Western Australia, I think we did a training race in Port Macquarie, a half distance race where I finished second or third behind Paul Amy, and I had a really good race there. And then he suddenly goes, "Oh, I think you're going to do much better at long distance. We should change straight away." And he goes, "Okay, you're going to stay in Australia a little bit longer. We're going to race Ironman Australia at the end of the year." And I was like, okay, I was 25 years old. And, the funny thing is, Nicole was with me then, and we just came together in that year. And I didn't tell her at the beginning, because I thought all Ironman athletes, it's kind of crazy to do Ironman. And I didn't know how to tell her that I'm going to do an Ironman in a few weeks, and even my parents, I was like, okay, they're going to think I'm crazy doing that. And nowadays, it's just normal doing it at that age. But at that time, 25 was still young for doing an Ironman. And
I still think it is young.
Yeah.
How did it go?
I finished third there, and I had a sprint finish, with Eneko Janos, and so we were only 30 seconds apart. We ran the whole marathon more or less together. And the funny thing is, I did the bike course on a road bike with training wheels. I didn't have a time trial bike at that time, and it was. Eneko was a really big name at this time.
He'd been second at Hawaii by then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of the greatest guys ever, I think. Became a really good friend of mine. But so we had this big fight there, and I thought, okay, if I can race guys like that, guys I could never race, was never competitive enough to race them in a short distance, maybe this is my calling, And then it all started from there. Going to Hawaii the year after, and that's actually how it all started.
Love it. And then when you so you qualified for Hawaii in 2005 or 6? Was it on that you qualified for Hawaii by doing that race? Is that your first?
Exactly. Yeah, qualified for the year after, and then raced there for the first time in 2006. Yeah.
And how was that experience? First time Hawaii Ironman, Kona World Champs.
Not a really good one. I think I finished 33rd or something, and
that's what I did. I finished 33rd one time. I did.
I didn't even know that. And I had this really annoying brake. Like I think I was riding my bike with brake pads who were touching my wheels all the time, and we had Ronnie Schildknecht and myself. We were.
Ronnie's coming on the show in a week's time.
Ah, great. Awesome. Yeah. So the two of us were a few of the first ones who were racing on this really new TT bike from BMC. I think there was only a few Phonak pro cyclists who had it before, and it was a prototype and everything. And it was just at the very beginning of these TT bikes, and it was still a few things were not going that well, Actually, my seat post broke once at Ironman Western Australia, getting on the bike after the swim, and my race was finished. And so
I know. Well, then, but look, your career, you really found your groove. Then, you had so many podiums. Every time you raced an Ironman, you were on the podium. You had some success at Kona Ironman World Championship with top 10s, and then fast forwarding, and we'll go backwards and forwards here, but I'll never forget your big win in 2011, St. George. But that must have been a hell of a moment for you, because you've been doing Ironman for 5 or 6 years by that point, and you've done quite a few of them. Fast forward to 2011 and winning St. George, and tell me what that moment was like.
Yeah, that was a really big one for me, exactly for that reason you just said, trying to win Ironman Switzerland for so many years and always having Ronnie there, I think he won it 9 times, I think, and he was just unbeatable. I tried all different tactics to beat him at that race, and, crazy tactics, and and it never really worked out. But and then I went to St. George. He was actually not such a good season till then. I I did Ironman New Zealand in that year and finished third, and which was okay, but I struggled with my body already at that time. And then I came up to Boulder and stayed at your house. You remember probably,
Yes.
I stayed there a few times, but that was actually my preparation, and even snowed there once, I think, and then. But I think it was the perfect preparation because St. George is a little bit at altitude as well, not as high maybe as Boulder, but a little bit. And it was just a course that suited me really well, because it was still the old run course that I don't remember how many meters of climbing it had in it, but much more than the actual World Championship course they had a couple of years ago. And the win was really special because a few months before that race, in October the year before, my dad passed away, and he was definitely my biggest fan, and never pushing me. He was always just doing great and really loved what I did, and of course I was going through a rough time. You know how it is. You lose your dad at that age, and. Yeah, so winning that race and winning it for him, and I still see the pictures, looking up to this guy. And I think I still get goosebumps just thinking about it because that made it really special, and one to remember for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I remember just being so stoked for you. And I do remember with your dad passing a few months earlier, and it really did. It gave us all chills to see you have that. I think the whole triathlon and Ironman community is a bit of a family, right? We all go to hell and back in these events. And I think, it's one thing to watch Alistair Brownlee or Jan Frodeno or Gomez or whoever win all the time, right? And we celebrate that. But boy, we enjoy it just as much, if not more, when the guy that's been pushing for years, has been a training partner to all these people a lot of the time, finally gets their turn. I think there's a real thrill for everybody to go, hey, this is what this sport's about. It's about grit. It's about determination. It's about turning up and just consistently. It's a bit like when I start this show by success comes to those who endure just one moment longer, right? It's that mentality, just keep enduring. Yeah. And it was really cool. The other big highlight, and again, I'm pointing out your highlights. I probably should let you do it. But for me, these were highlights, was in 2008, and we'd been working together. I've been helping you a little bit with your training. We've been doing some training together, and you and I remember flying to Hawaii. I'd raced the Lifetime Series and flew to Hawaii the next day to watch you race in Kona, and that top 10 in 2008. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it was a special race as well, and like you said, trained by you at that time, and you had a big influence on the success at the end because I went through your hard training. We did a lot of this long, hard running. In the lead out, like crazy long runs and hard runs. And
I think coaches now would look at the work that we did back then and be just going, "What in the world were you thinking?"
No, it was definitely just to survive it, but it was my mentality of training anyway. So, and just to survive it. And I knew if I survived that kind of training, I'm going to be strong. It was just a matter of recovering well. And so I raced and I had this, what I remember the most is going down Palani Road and I had Andy Potts right beside of me. And so we were racing for 7th place. And I knew Andy has really, he's a tall guy. And I knew if we go down Palani, like if I can't get rid of him before Palani, there's this little slightly uphill before Palani, you go down Palani, and I knew I have to get rid of him at that stage, or I'm going to be in massive trouble going downhill with his long legs, And that's exactly what happened. He got the advantage there and finished 30 seconds in front of me. But, at the end, it's top 10 is top 10. It doesn't, looking back, it doesn't really matter. If you're not making the podium, then top 10 is top 10. That's what I think. And yeah, that's a good one to remember. And not many Swiss did that altogether, like Ronnie, me, Ollie, Mike Gegro, and then in the old days, Christoph Maug probably, as well. He had 4th or 5th something,
The 4th, I remember
so that. It's a few good names to be around in Switzerland,
Yeah, no, I just remember, I mean, like we can reflect back a little bit on some of the training you did for people that are interested. And it was, you know, a lot of my training, it was all based on the Arthur Lydiard model, you know, which wasn't long, slow distance. It was long, best, easy distance, right? We call it best, easy. So you got to be moving along the ground as easy as possible. And this was not highly scientific, but we had you doing some incredible miles, you know, 40, 50K run days, right? I remember.
And that's good pace. Yeah.
Good pace. You were always running that kind of close to, well, under 4-minute K pace, or at least around 4-minute K pace.
Yeah, around 4-ish. Yeah.
You're doing a marathon a couple of times a week. Okay, everybody that's yelling at Greg, you're an idiot. But look, it worked somewhat. I mean,
it worked. Definitely worked.
It's probably a bit of an overkill.
But you know, I think I was the kind of athlete I had to train a bit like that. You know, I mean, looking back, maybe I should have listened to my body a few times in my career a little bit more, and maybe I would have had a longer career. But I always say, you know, even joining Brett Sutton afterwards in around 2011, you know, when I won St. George at that time, I said, okay, I'm going to go like I always did in the past, you know, I go all in. I go like, okay, I prefer to have 2 more good years and win a race, or win even a big one maybe, than having 10 more years, like average years, and making more podiums. I had enough podiums at that time. I said like, okay, if I survive 2 years with Sado, then then it's fine. And if I'm gonna have the results, but yeah,
I'm disappointed if you think Sato's training was harder than mine now.
Yeah, close. Yeah.
Sato's just more intervals. He liked always the 30 by 800s, and people were like, Greg, have you run a marathon? I'm like, well, only in training. And we did the 20 by 2, 40 by 4, 20 by 2, 200 float in between, and those kinds of workouts. I always do a lot of intervals with Brett, but I know
a lot of treadmill as well. And, you know, I did the same week. I think Rito once told me he had the same week as well, and he was a short course guy. But I had the same week because I was training in Australia before St. George and before I came to Boulder, and all winter. And I was down there. I had just that 1 week. I had to repeat all the time. I think I had a second one, which was more bike focused, but there was a so-called run focus Mathias week. And, you know, it was just the same week. So I repeated it every single week for at least 3 months.
Yeah.
And just working my way through it and start all over again on Monday morning, you know.
No, yeah. I remember with Brett adding up how many 200s I did in a week, and it was like because we always do, you know, 52s or 102s, and I remember I did like 360 200s. And it did flatten me in the end. I didn't make the Sydney Olympic team, which we were trying for. So that was back in '99 or whatever. But I remember just going, wow, that's a lot of starting and stopping, you know.
Yeah, it just made us mentally tough mostly, didn't it? You know,
it was mentally tough. There's a lot of learnings there. Actually, on that, you know, when you look at your career, your athletic career, you know, tell me, we've talked about a couple of your highs, but if you've got a couple more, share them with us. And then some of the lowest points for you, but more importantly than just talking highs and lows, I guess, you know, what you learned from all of those experiences.
You know, I mean, my lows, you know, I wouldn't say that was just one singular event. You know, maybe an Ironman I didn't finish. I didn't finish several ones towards the end of my career. I had this period of time before I actually started working here at Campus Sursee, you know, in the last 3 years, where I was injured all the time. I couldn't get rid of this one injury. It was the same all the time. I flew all over the world to figure out, to see, you know, to see the best people in the US, in Australia, and they all told me something different, but nobody could really figure it out. And this was kind of a low for me, but also a big learning curve for sure, you know, like not just learning from, and that what makes, or, you know, gives us sport mostly, I think, you know, to overcome obstacles, you know, and keep going and try new ways. a certain, mental toughness. I think we get out of it, like bouncing back from the setbacks is still so helpful, because this is even being in the corporate world now for almost 8 years. I mean, and building up a sports complex like I did, I had so many setbacks. And when I started working here, I had, to be honest, I mean, I had an education, I had a master's degree, but I had not a clue what I'm actually going to do. They just gave this project to me, a $70 million project. I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, I give it a try, and just to go all in and just knowing that, you've got the discipline, you've got the, how do you say in English, the perseverance and
perseverance,
perseverance, and that you get through it, in a way, and then concentrating on the process, was a big thing for me too, because what I learned in all the years, I mean, of course, I had the goal to open up the whole thing in 2019, but I had a 3-year period. It was all about the process to get there. So we started from zero. There was a green field, and so just like all the people who worked there, I had to do all the, how do you say, the employment and then getting the business case together. It was a big, big process. And seeing that, coming all together is so similar to going for a big race, and training for it. And there's so many other things that relate to the corporate world from sports, that helped me a lot. Also, just being fit in general, and I still train quite a bit, I think helps me because, getting my sleep right, getting routines and show up and know when I'm here, I'm going to perform, is a bit like training, you're going to show up and you concentrate on your work. And it's a bit the same as well. You can't, go all in all day. You need your time where you take a little bit off and then that you can give more another time. All these things, relate so well to this world I'm in now.
That's so well said, mate. That's really cool. And I'm still stuck on here's $70 million in a grass field. Make something happen. And you've just, like you said, you just retired as an athlete. You have a lot of lessons and learnings from being a world-class athlete and a lot of setbacks. But I remember you completing your master's degree, and then there you were. It was like, it's one of those things where sometimes it's like careful what you wish for. It's like, oh, I want to do this. And then, okay, here you are. Oh, crap. Now I have to do this now. And so just dealing with that pressure, or as they say, pressure is a privilege. It's like, okay, here I am. And I think the way you just described all of that, the way that you transitioned from sport to work, but you brought a lot of the tools and tactics that you learned from sport into the workplace. As a whole, when you look at that transition, retiring from sport, and I know you battled for several years with hamstring injuries and all sorts of things. What was that whole transition like for you? Finally going, okay, did they reach out to you with this opportunity for Campus Sursee, or was it, was there any time off in between?
I started being in a consulting role I think it was 2015, which was my last year I raced. Mm-hmm. Also because I got the job the year after. So I was in a consulting role for the project. So I knew about it and I grew up. I mean, Nicole and I just built our house 10K away from here, like 6 miles away from here. And so I knew about the projects. And the funny thing is I used to train at Campus Sursee when I was 15 years old already, because they had this really old shitty pool here, like a 40-year-old pool, but I got the guy who looked after it. He gave me the keys at that time so I could enter it because it was a private pool at that time.
You used to do that, actually.
Yeah, and there were some of the best athletes training in that pool because Macca was in there, Joanna King, Christoph Mauk, and some of the best athletes. Sometimes I still tell this story. We've got the big event hall now there. We tore the whole thing down a few years ago, but there's so much history in that little pool there, you know. And I mean, I loved it, you know. But yeah, so this was where were we? I forgot where we
just
were.
talking about transitioning from
Yeah,
sport.
yeah. So
Life,
the transition ran really well because of one reason, I think, you know, because I was injured for 3 years, so it was a struggle. I love to train, you know. I'm always, you know me better than a lot of people, and I kind of, you know, it took so much energy out of me being injured, and you're in pain a lot. You know, I couldn't train or run properly anymore for over 3 years, and still trained with bread, you know, and you know what that means, you know, and then working through pain. So I knew, you know, and you get a bit of, you know, you get how you say, you a bit scared how to survive the next years, you know, your existence and everything, you know, your financial existence. And so it was not a really good place to be in. And then this, the guy, the director at that time, he called me up one day and goes like, hey, are you interested to take over the whole project from 2016 onwards? And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. This is probably one of the, if not the biggest chance I get in my life, you know, to start from, you know, normally you, after a career in sports, you go back to bottom more or less, and
maybe one step up. If you're lucky.
Exactly. And he goes, I couldn't say no, you know. I was like, okay, I'm gonna at least try it, you know. And so I had to go into an assessment with 3 other candidates, and you get tested on all different kind of things, you know. And I got the job at the end, and it's all started from there. But you know, at the end, you know, I think I was open enough to always go and ask other people, which, you know, because I didn't have all the knowledge, of course, you know, and I had a good team around already here at campus. They were already there, and we were in the construction industry, so the construction itself was not we had more than enough good people around me. But in general, I went really well with always going to other people and ask them for advice, you know, and not being shy to do that, and not thinking you know it all by yourself, you know. Even with having degrees and everything, it's such a different ballpark, you know, to actually do real work, you know. I mean, you can have the best education and everything, but actually doing the work, building something up, and then having people at the end, that was the biggest change for me, you know. Suddenly I was in charge for so many people, you know, and their existence behind it, and that was the biggest change for me. And nowadays I'm in the executive board of the entire company. So we've got, you know, I make this, like, together with four other people in the executive board, I make decisions for 300 people, and that's a responsibility you have, you know. You have to kind of grow into it, you know. It would not have been possible 8 years ago, but I just worked my way through it and was able to learn a lot, or, you know, always interested to learn, which was a big part. And just grew and got more opportunities, you know, and ended up where I am now.
I love that. I love when you were talking about, you know, the feedback and advice. And it was when I was building Any Question, you know, the tech company with Ed Baker. And one of the first things he told me, he's like, Greg, you always reach out to people for feedback and advice. And it's amazing how many people want to help if you ask for feedback and advice. But if you ask just for help, they won't help you. But if you say, I just want a bit of feedback and advice, and it was always, and so people are going to be going, I get emails from Greg now. But yeah, I'll say, can you just give me some feedback and advice on this? And it's amazing. People want to help if you ask the right way, I guess is my point.
And I did the same thing as an athlete. You know, you remember probably, you know, Craig Alexander was a mentor of mine for a little bit. You know, I always had you around, Norman, Timo. I had all these great athletes around, McCormack, you know, and I always asked them for advice, you know, and tried to learn from them, and, you know, making the best out of it, you know, with my abilities at the end. But just that we did the same thing, didn't we? At the end, like just asking people, and that's what I do now.
And keep the learning going, like you said as well. It's like staying curious and keep learning. I love that, mate. And so, what's next? You've been with Campus Sursee for, 7, 8 years. You've built it. Obviously, it's pretty successful from what I can understand. Is it continue on that path? What do you got next on the horizon?
Well, I'm still going to work here, hopefully, the next few years. And I've still got a lot of goals still I want to achieve, with the arena, and financial goals we still have to achieve. And also to build the name up as a sports competence center in Switzerland. There's still a few things I want to do. But also I've got a few other projects on the side. I'm going to work a little bit, like one day less, starting summer, like August this year. And then I got a mandate, as a sub-project manager at the InHub in the Engadine Valley, which is close to...
What did you say? The what hub?
The Innovation Hub. It's the name of it is InHub, but it's short for Innovation Hub. And so I'm going to be in charge there as a sub-project manager for the On Peak Performance Center they're going to build up there. Oh, wow. A big project. On has to build or create one of or the world's most advanced training center for endurance athletes. So it's going to be an amazing project. Yeah, so I get super excited about that one. And
that's up in St. Moritz, you said?
Yeah, it's just a few Ks down the road from St. Moritz, So
it's with you and the Swiss, you and Olivia Bernhard, who, I've got to get Olivia on the show, by the way. When you talk to him next, say, Greg still
I will tell him. I actually told him 2 days ago that I'm going to be on your show, and if it's okay if I actually, talk about the project there, but it's all public now. The website of the Innovation of the InHub is there. You can look it up.
What's the website if people want to go to it? What's it called? Do you know it?
Inhub.ch.
Inhub.ch. Interesting. I'm going to go check it out. Yeah. And your role there, because you've done Campus Sursee now, you're the one that they go to say, hey, what do we need, right? And put
exactly.
in place.
So it's more or less the same thing I did here, just a bit more in a high performance sector. Campus Sursee, the sports complex here, is mostly for younger swimmers and different, less endurance sports triathlon as well, but not at the highest performance in the highest performance area. And this is going to be at altitude, which is going to make it very different as well. And it's going to be much more sports science related than Campus Sursee. So this is going to be the main focus. There's people involved like Olaf, coach of Christian and Gustav, who was on your podcast before. And former runners, Dave-Van Ritzenheim, who's a coach for On. People really interesting people, and I think that's why I get so excited about it, to have this environment of people who were really good in their fields, and the two On founders are in the project. So I get a new network. I learn. It's about learning again, isn't it? I'm gonna have different things I have to do there, and get new skills for sure, and learning.
You're going to learn a lot being around all the sports scientists guys. There's so much there, and that's just an evolving field still, right? I mean, it's like this. I'm just thinking peak performance, St. Moritz, having amazing, recovery rooms and all sorts of things where you can come down from altitude, and hot and cold therapy, and oh man,
so many things you can do nowadays, isn't it? I mean, it's a playing field, isn't it? And there's going to be a lot of state-of-the-art technology in there, and I'm just super stoked, because I think this is, it's going to keep me busy beside of the job here, that's for sure. But so that's what I'm gonna do the next 2 years for sure, and then. We also founded, Nicole and I, together with two partners, we talked about it quickly, outside of the podcast. We're going to be live very soon with a longevity company called One Life My Life. So we're going to have our website out there towards the end of February. So I'm getting really excited about that one as well. That's a little project of ours.
I love the name, by the way. You didn't tell me their name the other day, but One Life, My Life.
Yeah.
Really cool. Longevity space. And where are you going to plan? Is that going to be up in St. Moritz as well? Where are you thinking?
It hasn't got. We don't have a clinic to start with, so it's going to be. We're going to meet our customers in different places. We're going to choose them. Wherever they're coming from, or if we have to go somewhere, we're going to keep that open. But long-term thinking, this could be an option for sure, but not at the beginning, because this is also something we do beside, so we can't be I can't be in St. Moritz for that and have working here. So this is important, and still my main job is doing my job here at Campus Sursee.
What's going on, mate? Yeah. I love when they ask people what's next, and you're like, well, I've still got Campus Sursee full time, and then I've got this in-hub big performance lab I'm going to build in St. Moritz. Oh, and then I've started my own company with Nico, where we're going to have a longevity company called One Life My Life. Bloody hell.
It's like training, isn't it? I have to keep busy. So
you do. Well, you got to do three businesses, not one. That's the triathlon mentality. That's really cool. I'm excited for you, and like you said, the learning in each of these areas is significant. And all the learning that you've had from Campus Sursee and sport, that you'll be able to take into these future areas is really cool. Are you shifting gear a little bit? Are you following triathlon much these days? I know you and Nicole are keeping fit, and you did, Cape Epic and other mountain bike events and that kind of thing. But is your finger on the pulse in the triathlon world at all?
Yeah, it is, because we still watch most of the races, and there's so many races out now, and a lot more coverage than there used to be, so it's kind of hard to follow sometimes. But having the national training facility here of the Swiss Triathlon Federation, actually follow these athletes closely, like Katja Scher, for example, who did really well the last year as under 23 in the Super League, and she had a bit of a breakthrough. So I actually love to see athletes coming out of the arena and doing well. And Simon Westermann, we've got a few athletes who might make the Olympics, But still, I love the sport, man. I just love to follow the sport and all the equipment and everything, following the athletes on their YouTube channels, listening to podcasts. I love it. I always loved the sport and still do, and not that I would like to do a triathlon in the near future as a age group. That's why I do all these slower, long-distance, multi-stage races where I don't need to go really fast anymore. But yeah, I follow it all, really.
Yeah. That's so cool. Well, have you noticed any, you retired around about the same time I did. It's almost 10 years ago. Can you believe it? Have you noticed any sort of big changes or things that are kind of, different, particularly interesting or even concerning in the sport, or have you just noticed it progress?
Well, the progress is amazing. You look at Lucy Charles' finishing time. I looked it up. It was the same time when I finished in the top 8 in Hawaii. It's kind of embarrassing a little bit, is it? But, there's so many. I think the material really changed a lot. And not only material, maybe also the way they sit on the bikes, aerodynamics in general. If you look at the positions we used to ride and with our arms down and all the details, I think I went to the wind tunnel maybe once at the end of my career, that was about it, so there was not much time we invested into aerodynamics at that time, or never as much as they do now. And then you've got the shoes, and I still think, they have a big impact more on the, I would say, the muscle fatigue. I saw it with Nicole when she ran her marathon a few weeks ago with only 6 weeks of training, and actually her longest run was maybe 2 hours, and I thought she's gonna break. Her muscles are gonna break after a certain time or after a certain distance, but So she put the carbon shoes on, the on carbon shoes, and she didn't break. Her muscles didn't break. And this was, I think, wouldn't have been possible a few years ago with normal shoes. That's what I think. I think that's where the big difference is. I have not a clue if they make you any faster with the spring effect or something like that. No idea. I didn't read into that, but I'm 100% sure you're less fatigued at the end of a long race.
I think you've nailed it. I think the fatigue part is massive, but not just in the race, in the training. So you're able to back up. So you're able to back up and either do more miles running or add to your bike intensity. And so as a whole, you're able to have a little less stress on the entire body. Yeah. I do think after running in the shoes that they depending on the athlete and how you strike the ground, I do think some athletes are getting the 4%. Remember the Nike was, 4% or whatever.
Yeah.
And I do think some are getting close to 4% improvements and others are probably getting 0.4% depending on how you land and how you use the shoe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The part is huge. The aerodynamics on the bike is huge. And the athlete's intensity and more money in the sport and more science. So I don't want to cheapen the athletes by any means, by the way, but when we talk about how great the equipment is, still the most brilliant athletes, physical, mental, emotional. I'm just like you. Especially the big races, I love to tune in and just watch every little piece. And then as soon as they're finished, I write them all and try and get them on the show just so I can chat because I'm a bit of a groupie.
Yeah.
Still when Lucy and Reese write me back, yeah, Greg, we'll come back on the show. I'm like such a fan. I'm such a groupie. I'm like, oh, Lucy's going back on the show, Laura.
But isn't that cool? I think that we still love the sport we did. Sometimes, you see people and you can see they never enjoyed what they actually. I still think it was the biggest privilege I ever had. And when I started working here, I went into the corporate world, I always said, and even say to my people nowadays, what I never did is trying to find the same emotional, benefits or the same feeling I had as an athlete,
Yeah.
This is something I never tried to chase because it's never, even when the sport arena, when we opened the doors, when we had this big opening party and everything, it was a very happy moment, great moment, but it was never the same as winning an Ironman or, finishing and the cheers and everything. It's just something you will never have like that anymore. And you have to accept that the way it is.
I love how you put that. I was talking to Hunter Kemper quite a few years ago now, probably. And, we were in this transition stage, trying to figure out what to do next. And I'm like, well, just make sure you're not searching for the same kind of passion you had. And recognize that you got to have a career as a professional athlete and you got to chase your passion and have tremendous purpose. And you may find that again, if you're lucky, some point in your life. But recognizing exactly how you put, I got to have it though. I actually got to chase my dreams and my passion and live a life of purpose in something that I thoroughly enjoy. It's really cool. Not
many people get that, really, even with myself, with looking back, not being, winning on the big stage and things like that, like others, and being a big name or anything like that, but still looking back, I would do it exactly the same way again. And I think it gave me more, and even with all the struggles, and it gave me more than any other job could have given me. And even, seeing all the cultures from young age, being open-minded from young age because of having friends from all over the world, like from young age onwards, it's just massive, isn't it? It's just, something I really, really appreciate,
Laura and I laugh about that going, it's pretty cool that we could be dropped off in nearly any country in the world and find somebody we know if we were really desperate for a bed or put us up. Maybe not with 2 kids in tow, I don't know. But it's like, it's pretty cool when you go, hey, wow, our global network is, from Kazakhstan to, Puerto Rico and South America and Brazil.
It's so
everywhere you go.
special. It's so special, isn't it?
China, I've got friends all over China now. Racing in Beijing and China. It's like it really is. And I think you've said it really well. It's been just such a privilege. And then, yes, of course, you and I are groupies now. We love the sport. We love the sport. I love watching what people are going through because I did it myself. The excitement they're feeling, getting ready for races and all the nervous energy. And then once you're in it and, dealing with, whatever's thrown at you, it's really cool.
And I have not a problem to talk with Nicole loves it as well, and that's a good thing, because we can talk about it. And nowadays we come home from work and we talk about triathlon sometimes, when there's big races coming up, and we do the same with cycling, by the way. We're big into mountain biking and road cycling. So we've got all these conversations, and it's actually the only thing we watch on TV nowadays is sports, and that's about it. That's when we turn the TV on. That's when cycling races are on, mountain bike World Cup or triathlons. That's about it. Bang. Ski races. We watch ski races, which is very sweet. I love ski racing. Yeah.
We have tennis as well. We like the tennis. I love the fact, here's how much of a groupie I have. So Nino Schurter, right, the greatest mountain biker of all time. I would actually call him a friend and a mate. And it's like, Nino Schurter? Like, I'm still such a groupie. Did I ever tell you that I recorded a second episode with him for this podcast and it got lost?
No way. I thought it would be about time to bring him back up because he won a few more races since you had him on the show the last time.
We recorded probably 18 months ago. Big shout out to Nino. I'm so sorry, mate. So basically, I sent the file. I'll take all the blame myself, so I'm not blaming anybody here. But basically, I sent the file to my producer who was in Australia, and he went on holidays. And the file, when you send via WeTransfer, unless you change it, it goes in 7 days. And then I'd had my memory chip I kind of deleted for the next episode I was recording, and so I deleted it on this end, and then the WeTransfer expired, and I was like, I couldn't find it.
Oh no!
So I had to write Nino and go, oh, Nino, I'm so sorry. I took an hour out of your life or more. And it was a really good episode too. Ones where you go, oh, no. And it was Nino Schurter. So I've waited probably 18 months. Maybe I'll reach out to him again and say, hey, you want to do this again?
Yeah, once he's retired, he's got a bit more time. So let's see what he's doing after Paris. So it will be interesting to see. But he's also a guy who loves the sport, doesn't he? And it kept him in the sport for such a long time. When we go and watch the World Cup, mountain bike World Cup in Lenzerheide every year, we just love. We do it since years. We go up there, and I think it's one of the greatest sports events.
Oh, it's so cool.
Ever,
there a few years ago, that was so cool. Are you friends with Nino? Do you know Nino?
No.
Oh, I have to connect you guys.
Yeah. No, probably not a good idea to go mountain biking with him. We were a bit slower at the Cape Epic, so.
Yeah, no, but you should meet him. You're in the same sort of world there. Very cool. Well, let's finish up. Final 4 questions. First one. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
18-year. I would say don't always try to please everyone. I think I was always somebody who tried to please everyone around me and not sometimes looking after myself. That's what I think.
No,
I would tell.
I like that. Good one to be able to tell yourself. I think Laura could resonate with that one too. All right, 3 people you'd want to have dinner with, non-family. They can be living or dead.
I knew this question is coming up because I listen to your podcast all the time. And we make kind of a game out of it, Nicole and I. We always come up with names, and the names are actually different every second week. You bring up a new. I said, oh, actually, that was a good one. I would take that one as well. No, so today I would take Steve Prefontaine for his mindset. Yeah, I would say. Then Trevor Noah to have a bit of fun. Yeah. And just because I love South Africa, and he's got he's got a bit of history and and coming from South Africa. Yeah. And then, my dad was always, and I had a bit of an influence on me. He was always a big fan of Shaolin, and I always said I don't know, since my childhood, and probably because of my dad, I always wanted to go to the Shaolin monarchy, or how do you say, the monastery, not monarchy,
Yeah,
the monastery, And I would love to actually sit together with a Shaolin monk, not a particular one, just a Shaolin monk.
That is so. That is so left field. I love it. I love that, mate. Everybody else comes on and says Arnie and The Rock, and or Obama gets dropped all the time, but you've gone for a Shaolin monk. I love it. That's cool, buddy. All right, where do you see yourself in 5 years then? After we've sort of talked about what's next, mate, you got plenty on your plate. 5 years time.
5 years is a long time. Yeah, I mean, still, maybe still here, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
And with all the projects, I have on the side now, maybe there's a different way I go, I still think being an athlete for such a long time and being your own boss, and I still would love to have my own company. It's still something I want to achieve in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows, if the longevity company is going well in a few years, that's so many different ways this could go. And I'm privileged to have so many options and have a great working place right now. So it's not like I need anything else, this is just awesome what I can do here. So it's
lean into all of them. Lean in and see where they take you, right? And stay open for opportunity. And I think, everybody, it's like I listen to you, and what I love about it is you're recognizing opportunity. Some people, I didn't get any opportunity. Well, it was there. You just didn't lean into it and give it a decent go.
Take your chances. Yeah,
take your chances. And with you and Nicole together, I think you guys would be you're a powerhouse duo in a company together. You work so well together in sport and in life. I think you guys would be successful in whatever you decide you really want to do. It's really cool. Yeah. All right. Well, let's finish it with this last one. It's not meant to be morbid. It's meant to be exciting. But how would you use your remaining days if you had 6 months to live and you were healthy for those 6 months, but you were given, hey, you got 6 months. How would you do it? What would you do?
I think I would sell everything that is, material, mostly. I mean, the house, then, mobile, maybe not the bikes. The bikes I would take with me. It's probably the only thing I will keep, because, but then probably traveling the world with Nicole and seeing all my friends, and spending most of the time with Nicole. But then, when I look back, the happiest times, and if I look back at our Noosa time, and we spend a lot of time together there as well, and doing the Sunday afternoon ocean swims, and then sit together, have the barbecues, just going around the world and see people. And like we said the other week, we have to spend more time talking to friends if they're not, even if they're far away, and get in contact again. And that's what I would do, and go and see the people, you had the best time of your life, and make it a good one.
All right. Well, then you better go do it, mate. Let's action. Let's go. No, that's cool, buddy. I love that. Let's finish up with some rapid fire. You want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
You got left, yeah. All right. Favorite cheat meal?
Bread.
Yeah.
I'm Swiss.
You get the proper good Swiss heavy duty bread.
I love Swiss bread, man. It's the best.
Coffee or tea?
Big time coffee.
I know. Our espresso machine gets destroyed when you come and stay with us.
I've got a really good machine nowadays.
You really got to do it. I love it. All right. Favorite training location?
Boulder.
Yeah. Okay.
Noosa is close, but Noosa is getting a bit too dangerous, I guess, on the road. But Boulder as a triathlete, mountain biking, 100 or 1,000% for Stellenbosch, South Africa, which is absolutely mind-blowing mountain biking.
Better than Switzerland, even.
Oh yeah. Single trials on end, good weather. Oh, it's just the best.
Oh, gosh, good to know. Good to know. I've got Conrad Stoltz coming on the show in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah.
I'll
He
ask him
builds the trail, so it's
But
actually...
he does. He's the trail builder down there. So, yeah. Oh, very cool. All right. 2 most used apps on your phone.
WhatsApp and Aura Ring.
Aura Ring. Yeah, I like it. All right. Even though I'm more of a Whoop man these days.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a big one for you, actually. I wonder what you're going to pick. Mountains or beaches?
A few years ago, I would have said beaches, living in Australia and everything. But nowadays, mountains. I don't know when it changed, but I think a lot of things we do, Nicole and I, we can do in the mountains, and mostly mountain biking. I can't surf. I'm not going to do big ocean swims anymore. Small ones. I'm scared of sharks. So, yeah, mountains. Yeah.
I get it. It changes all the time. It's like once we had little kids, the beaches that's an easy playground for kids. Yeah. And then when they get older, maybe we'll go back to the mountains again. Come over and stay with you guys. All right. What's one book that you would gift to a friend?
I give a lot of books to friends. I would say a book every 2 weeks nowadays.
Are you audible or are you reading them?
No, I'm reading them. I heard you're always listening to them, and I had to laugh, because I know you so well. You're better at audiobooks than reading. No, I read them, but
5 times the speed. I can listen to them on plan or stepper or whatever.
I've got the podcast I can listen to, but then I love to have an actual book and
physical book.
Yeah, Brief would be the one I would give to people at the moment. I think it is just mind-blowing. It changed my life, entirely, the way I breathe, and it's Brief from James Nestor. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've got Brief. I actually have that in a physical. That's probably why I've never read all of it.
I just changed a lot in, the way I sleep and everything changed through that book, definitely.
Cool. All right. Do you want to give me one more? Because I'm going to write. I need another one.
Peter Attia, Outlive was I think a good one. I think that one is and it also has a lot to do with the company we build up, because I'm really interested in the topics he talks about there and in health in general. Yeah. So I think it's also a book that can change your entire life. If you start doing things that's in there. Yeah, so that would be my second one. Cool. And it would change in 2 weeks, I can tell you. Yeah.
I love it. I'll share you my Audible list of books, my favorite books. It's funny. A lot of mine, like you said, a lot of mine were tech and business the last few years, but changing a little bit the last 3 to 4 months. Arnold is a huge, Arnold on Netflix was one of my favorite shows. So I just read his book, I got a bit bored on Netflix watching it. I don't know why. And I heard a lot good about it, but I kind of didn't kept watching it. Yeah, the show's going to end right now.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I loved it. I watched it twice.
Yeah, I'm not on Netflix anymore nowadays. I cancel it.
I don't have time for Netflix. Netflix in about a year. I just listen to these books. But all right, greatest movie of all time.
Forrest Gump.
Good choice. What a great movie. Yeah. Excellent movie. Best decade of music?
80s.
Yeah, good man. Well, Pikey, Mathias, this has been awesome, buddy.
Thanks really so much
for coming on and chatting. And there's so many great quotable quotes in there, by the way. Very cool.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
You're doing a really great job. And you're certainly inspiring me, mate. Really fantastic.
At least one out there, so that's already enough. I take it, man. I take it. You've inspired me my entire career. So
you've done such a good job, buddy. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Truly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, huh?
Yeah, cool. Appreciate you. And for everybody listening, you can find all the show notes at bennettendurance.com/media. All right, stay on the line, buddy. Cheers.
Bye.